So we're going to spend some time here and go through our residential lease agreement. This is for you tenants. Of course, whatever contract you have, you're going to be obligated and you have to abide by those terms. But I thought I'd go through kind of our standard lease and some of the language in here so you feel comfortable with your lease agreement once it comes to you. So let's start off. So first you start with it's between the owner of the property and you, the tenant. Of course, we can sign on behalf of the owner. We're an agent of the owner. And usually that's what's going to happen here. And anybody who's over 18 needs to be on the lease. They don't necessarily need to have to apply, but they should, but they need to be named on the lease. So it's all the adults in the property must be named in this lease agreement. In section 1, we decide what the address of the property is. And then if there are other people in the property, they'd be named here. So every adult plus possibly children be in the section 1. Most of our leases begin on a certain date and end on a certain date. Generally speaking, we want to do a 1-year lease with our tenants. We want you to be able to know that you're going to be in the property at least a year and you can enjoy the property. If you did a month to month, depending on the type of property, of course, we give you a 30-day notice and you'd have to be out of the property. So a 1-year lease gives you time to enjoy the property, and we don't want to be renting the property over and over again. Some properties, depending, once again, multi-unit currently, if it's over 11 months, you have the right to stay in the property, unless, of course, you don't abide by the terms of the contract and there's just cause to evict you. But otherwise, typically after that point, will be a month-to-month lease. This explains if it is month-to-month or when the lease is going to terminate. So once again, if a lease is starting on June 1st of 2020, it may go through May 31st of 2021. And that's what that says here. This is your rent. So this is the total rent you're going to pay. This will include your base rent plus any programs you may participate in. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Your rent can be paid in a variety of ways. The way we would most likely see you want to pay is by EFT, electric funds transfer, but you can pay by personal check and mail it in. Of course, it has to get here by your due date. So if it's due the 1st, late the 5th, and you put it in the mail on the 3rd and it gets here on the 7th, that's going to be late. But you can pay by personal check, money order, cashier's check, wire transfer, and of course, electronic funds transfer, EFT, and that's free to you. There's no cost to do an EFT. Security deposit. So state of California, your security deposit can be 0. If it's an unfurnished property, it can be up to 2 months rent as a security deposit. Typically, that's going to be held by us, the management company, but it could be held by the owner. And this says exactly what your security deposit is going to be. This would be the amount of money we hold in our trust account for you. You'll see on section 4B, it says in big capital letters, security deposit should not be used by tenant in lieu of payment of last month's rent. So you have a lease through May 31st, and May 1st rolls around, and you call and say, you know what, just keep the security deposit instead of my last month's rent. That's in clear violation of the contract, and we would have the right to post a 3-day notice to quit or pay. We'd have the right to move forward with an eviction, and if we had any kind of losses, we'd have the right to put a judgment against you. So don't think the security deposit can be used for your last month's rent. It will not, and we will take action. See, now these are basic kind of standard California laws that once you move out and you've vacated the property, we have 21 days to return your security deposit to you or give you an accounting or deduct out for any damages you might have made to the property. If it's held by the owner, so let's say the owner says, I'm going to keep the security deposit. I'm not going to let the management company hold it. And then the owner doesn't return it to you or the amount, that's between you and the owner. We don't have access to security deposit at that point. We strongly recommend to our owners that we do hold the security deposit. We have no problem negotiating with you, but sometimes the owner does have it, and that's going to be obviously between you. Section F states to you, it is our company policy to have 2 months rent as security deposit. And if you don't have the second month or can't come up with a payment or unwilling, then we do offer a preferred tenant program or security deposit guarantee. And so for a fee of 1 or 2% of your monthly rent, so if your rent is $2,000 and you have good credit scores, we would charge $20 a month. And then we guarantee that second month security deposit to the owner. And if you move out and no damages to the property, we will refund 25% of the total amount collected. And we'll talk about some of that in section 5 here. So we do offer a number of optional owner and tenant program. The only program that's not optional is that you must provide liability insurance to us. So you can provide your own renter's insurance from your own company, great. But if you don't have that, then we do offer liability insurance, which is $100,000 of coverage, and it costs $1,250 a month, and we'll charge you for that. And why liability insurance is important, it's really important. Yeah, I understand we can't require renter's insurance, but we can require liability insurance. So if you have a grease fire, you put something in the oven, you walk away, it flames up, and it does $50,000 of damage to the owner's property, specifically the kitchen, you're liable. And the owner could want payment for that. And the owners want to use their insurance because there's a deductible, typically of $5,000. And also then sometimes they don't even have insurance. So the bottom line is we're going to require that you have liability insurance. There's no deductible to the owner, gives them $100,000 of coverage, and they don't need to come after you if there's any kind of damage like that. We offer an owner protection, and that's a program that owners like. And we do charge you, the tenant, a $15 fee per month. And it's really attached to the property. It's not, we wouldn't rent the property to you if we thought we had to evict you. But if somewhere down the line we do have to evict a tenant, then we pay for that cost of the eviction. In California, we can't charge the owner for that program. The Department of Real Estate does not allow it, but we can charge you. So that's a program a lot of our owners want and you may pay for. We offer 3 residence benefits packages. Once again, if you're interested in those are services to you that on our most popular, which is the middle program, that's $40 a month. It covers utility maintenance service. It covers Filter Easy, so you get an air filter for your air conditioner every 6 months. We waive the renewal fee, which is $100 a year. So it's a really good program. It's worth $40 a month, and you can participate in that. The utility maintenance management service, we'll go into some detail later. Once again, that's a program where we keep the utilities in our name. And when you move in, we send you a monthly utility bill for all utilities, water, gas, electric, whatever it might be. And then at the end of the year, if we're under, you owe us some money. If we're over, we send you money, and we true up that bill. But it's a way for you not to have to put the utilities in your name. Sometimes there's a cost involved or a credit check. We keep it in our name. Renewal option, a few tenants want this. They want to be able to automatically renew their lease if they hit certain guidelines, and that's $15 a month. Pet protection. We encourage our owners to be pet friendly. And if you have a pet, unfortunately, pets cause damage. So in order to convince our owners to allow you to have that pet, they generally want you to participate in our pet protection program. So if your pet causes any damage, we cover that up to $1,000 for the owner. And depending on the type of pet, it can be as little as $10. And that's if you go to petscreening.com and register your pet. And your pet's the perfect animal with all the documentation. It could be as little as 10, could be as much as 40, or you just pay $30 per month per pet. And then we allow you to keep the pet on the premises, and we pay for any damage up to $1,000. Preferred tenant, we already talked about that. That's a security deposit guarantee, and priority entry doesn't really apply to you. So if you're late, there'll be a late charge. In California, typically the maximum late fee is 6%. Our default is 5%. So if your rent is $2,000 and it's due on the 1st, late on the 5th, meaning you have till the 5th of the month at 11:59 p.m. to make payment. So if you pay on the 6th or the 7th, fine, we'll accept that, but you'll have a late fee in this case of $100. So we believe that's a reasonable and fair amount. We don't want to charge you a late fee. We don't want to post a 3-day notice to quit on your property. We really want you to pay as agreed. If you're a new tenant, to set up and put you in our AppFolio software, which is our management software, and get all your paperwork in, we charge a one-time $95 admin fee, and you'll see that on your first lease. So this is your breakdown. These are your moving costs, and you'll pay attention to this because this is going to be what you owe. So you owe a security deposit. You have that admin fee of $95. If you don't have a liability insurance, we charge $1,250 regardless of when you move in during the month. So that's your non-prorated. Those are fixed, depending. Doesn't make a difference. Once you move in, that's a fixed cost. And prorated means it's based on how many days you live in the property that month. So if you're only in the property 10 days and a third of the month, you pay a third of these fees. If you're in the property of the entire 30 days, you pay 100% of these fees. And that'd be the programs we kind of already talked about. And then, of course, your prorated rent for the month. Parking and storage, unless differently, most of our properties have on-site parking, and you're allowed to park there. Utilities and services. So typically our tenants pay for utilities. Now, some utilities are paid by the owner because it's in their property taxes. Like in some cities, the trash is oftentimes built into the property taxes. Sometimes the water bill isn't prorated out. It's included in your rent. So, but typically you're going to pay for all utilities, and that's water, gas, electric, and possibly trash. And we always encourage our owners to have the owner pay for gardening and landscaping. We don't want you to be doing that. And if we do meter it, we'll let you know what that looks like. So what we mean by metering, let's say it's a 10-unit building and you live in 1 unit, then you'd be responsible for 10% of the total water, 10% of the electric, depending on the situation. And this is where it says if they're sub-metered. Section 11, at the end of your term of your lease, if the owner decides to renew and you want to stay, we'll negotiate that. We will do an inspection and provide a report to the owner, and we will charge you, the tenant, a $100 lease renewal fee to execute a new lease. And if for some reason you just don't recognize us, you don't communicate with us, you hunker down, you don't vacate the property, your rent will automatically increase by 5%. So we really want you to either stay and renew or go if that's what you choose to do. The section 12, we call it the MIMO, or the move in, move out form. So when you move in, oftentimes you move in and you'll find things we weren't aware of. The last 10 didn't tell us about. So you're going to let us know this doesn't work or that doesn't work. It's health and safety, and we're going to address that. But you really want to go through your property and say, hey, there's a mark here, there's a hole here, there's a scrape here, there's a whatever it might be, because when you move out, you may be held liable for that. So you want to make sure you go through. You don't have to give us that form the day you move in. You can give it to us a few days after execution, but you want to do a thorough inspection of your property and then give us back that move-in form, which will be provided. You are responsible for the maintenance of your property. Includes air filters, light bulbs, all these things in here. You've got to treat this property as if it were your own. And you got to make sure you maintain the property. If you have an issue, if something breaks, we want you to report it. You're entitled to quiet enjoyment of your property and health and safety, and we want to take care of that. So it's important we communicate with each other. You must water the property. If you do not water the property and the lawn dies, or you could be held liable for to having to replant. So make sure you water properly. And once again, typically the owner is going to maintain it, but you need to water it. We're currently in E. We're not in a water restriction. That'd be an emergency drop measure, but if it happens, we'll let you know. Personal property, if it's included, be there. That'd be like a storage shed. That'd be a fountain of something of that sort. Section G it's important. So typically if we leave a refrigerator with a property, or a washer and dryer, we leave that without warranty. What that means is if the washer machine breaks, we're not going to replace it or fix it. You can throw it out if you want to. But we're leaving there as a convenience to you two, but we're not going to warranty them. Sometimes we do. A built-in refrigerator would be left with a warranty, meaning that if it were to break, we would fix it. But you need to pay attention to Section G there. Standard stuff. We talked about pets. So this goes into detail how we come to the amount of money we're going to charge for your pet, depending on the rating. So if you want to, we encourage you to go to petscreening.com. One benefit to you, the tenant, is that once you fill this out and you put in your vaccination, you put in your licensing, you put in all the important information about your pet, you get a link. So when you go to a groomer, you can give them the link and it gives you all the documentation. You go to a vet. If you don't want to deal with that, the complexity of the cost, there is a cost to do petscreening.com. It's $20 for the first pet and $15 for every pet after that. Then you just pay $30 per pet per month for an approved animal. If you have a comfort animal or a service animal, then of course there's no fee, and we would never discriminate based on that. We would require documentation. So you would go to petscreening.com and put in your information about your animal to make sure that it has been certified and it is acceptable. 16, all of our properties are non-smoking. If you create damage to the property because of smoking indoors, and that can be substantial, that can be drywall, that can be, of course, window coverings. You're going to be responsible for that, for the removal or replacement. So if you're going to smoke, you got to smoke outside. That doesn't make a difference as marijuana or tobacco has to be outside. No smoking is allowed on our premises. Rules and regulations. So if you live in a homeowners association, a place where there are condos or townhomes and they have their own rules, you need to abide by those rules. And we will give you a copy of those rules. And if there's a fine because you're putting towels out on your balcony and that's not allowed by the association, you're going to pay that fine. Once again, that's if it's a homeowners association. 19, we do not want you making repairs or alterations. If you have an issue, we shall send a qualified vendor to effect those repairs. This says you don't make repairs. So if you decide you want to change something about the property, you want to repaint your room, you must get approval from us. And typically we're going to make sure that you put it back to the way you found it once you vacate the property. Okay, and you can't fix up a property and decide it was worth $500 to the owner and take it out of your rent. Anything you do to the property must be approved by us before you do it. Typically, Section 20, we do not rekey our properties. So when you move in, it's going to be probably the same keys the last tenant used, the tenant before that, tenant before that. If you want to rekey the property, you can at your expense, and we'd want a copy of the key. But we typically do not rekey the property. Entry. So we, of course, follow California law. We and the owner has the right to gain entry to the property with a 24-hour notice. If there's an emergency, we have right to get immediate access to your property. So that rarely happens, but it can. If it does, we can go in without approval. But otherwise, we need to get 24-hour written approval. And we're going to tell you what we're doing, why we're going in. We're meeting a vendor, whatever it might be. If we call you and you say, sure, come on by, we don't need to do it written at that point. So once again, this is all California law, and you can review it at your leisure. Photography, of course, we're going to take photos when we're marketing the property. 24, it goes without saying, you cannot sublet your property. You can't turn into an Airbnb. You can't let your friend take over the lease without telling us. You can't sublease. We're leasing it to you and to the people that we agreed to in this agreement, and not to anybody else. Everything in Section 27 is California law. So once again, you can go there and read about it. There's very strict rules about what we can or can't do when you vacate the property, about leaving personal property behind and damages and all that kind of stuff. In the end, you're entitled to normal wear and tear of the property. Anything beyond normal wear and tear can be deducted as a security deposit. Also, the owner and we are allowed to professionally clean the property once you vacate and charge you for that. And we suggest you don't clean the property, don't do it well. We still have to clean it and charge you. It's better off just to let us do our cleaning. That's with a reasonable cost to you. Section 20, if you decide halfway through your lease, you want to move somewhere else, you can't. If you do, you're liable for loss of rent, the cost to secure a new tenant, damages, and also this breach of contract fee, this lease breakage fee of $750. You're better off waiting till the lease expires and then vacating the property. Damages, once again, if something major happens to the property, fire, water damage, and the property is just not inhabitable for a period of time, certainly over 2 or 3 weeks, then you're allowed to leave the property without damage, without loss of rent, and we'll have that discussion. For 31, really strongly recommend you get tenants insurance. If not, we're going to bill you $1,250 a month for liability insurance, but that doesn't cover your personal property. So if there would be a fire to the property and destroys $20,000 of your stuff, you're not going to get reimbursed. We do offer a residence benefits package, and the second package, $40 a month. That does include renter's insurance, and it does include protection of your personal property. And this talks about the insurance at $1,250 in Section 31. All standard information. If we get in a fight, we go to mediation. We cap our attorney fees at $1,000. So even if you win in court, and we'll go through some disclosures that are required by California law. Some are attached. Lead-based paint. If the property is older than 1978, then we have to give you a form, a lead-based paint form, because there could be lead in the paint on the walls, and that you don't want to be touching that. Megan's Law, you have the right to go to meganslaw.ca.gov and look for a Megan's Law violators around the neighborhood. We don't know if they are or they aren't around you, but you certainly can go and find out. These are other forms we're going to give you. And once again, these are going to be at the end of this thing, so I'm going to skip along and go to those disclosures. Here are the different programs we offer, which we talked about. Here they are. And if these are checked, then that means there'll be a disclosure you'll sign going into more detail about that program. And some other forms we have, which we'll look at a few of these. And then you would sign the contract. If you have a guarantor, so a parent sometimes will sign for a student that's here and they're on the hook financially for anything you do to the property. If agents are involved, they fill out there. Flood hazard. So if your property is located in a flood zone, it could be, and if it is, it has to be disclosed to you, because that means possibly it floods more often than other places and your personal property could be at risk and you really want to get tenant renter's insurance. So that's a form you'll sign. Bed bug. Bed bugs out there. And if you find bed bugs, you need to tell us about it. Generally speaking, almost every single time, the owner is going to be responsible for remediating or removing the bed bugs. But this disclose what are the bed bugs, and then you need to report them to us so we can remediate and get rid of those bed bugs. Pet addendum. If you have a pet, even if you haven't done pet, even if you've done pet screening, we want you to fill this out. Let you know what we just the pet has to abide by these terms. You're responsible for compliance and whatnot. So that's all I hear. Carbon monoxide. Every property we rent by California law must have smoke detectors in every bedroom, and it must have a carbon monoxide detector on the same level as the garage or the water heater to protect your safety. Water heater, again, water heaters have to be strapped, and smoke detectors must be in place. We talked about lead-based paint. This is just disclosing that and places you can go to get more information. Lease mold. Mold, we don't want mold. You don't want mold. If you discover it, we want you to let us know about it. We want you to keep the property properly ventilated so that it will stop mold. Mold grows where there's water. And so we just got to be vigilant about water. This kind of gives you a general list of what stuff costs as you move out if there's damages. This is not all binding. It's just sort of a general list for you. But the longer you stay in the property, the less liable you are for damage to, for example, to paint or carpet or flooring. That kind of goes over this. And the costs for different stuff if you move out and needs to be replaced. Can't say it enough. Insurance. Need to have it. If you don't have it, we're going to charge you $12.50. And this is the disclosure on the insurance we're going to provide for you. When you move in, you're going to give a keys and garage door addendum. How many keys would we give you? Did we give you an HOA, a key to the pool, transmitters for the garage? Because if you move out and don't return those, you'll be charged for those items. And this is a law for this year, the rent cap at just cause eviction. So this must be filled out and given to you. And the key section is right here. So if your property is 2 units or more in the state of California, you're subject to rent cap. I mean, your rent cannot increase currently more than 5% over CPI, Consumer Price Index, and you can't be removed unless there's just cause. You don't pay or you don't abide by the contract. So, but if you're a single family home or a townhome, then you would not be included in the rent cap and just cause eviction, but that has to be disclosed to you as well. And those are our forms. So thank you. We hope you become one of our tenants, and hopefully we can manage happiness for you as well. And we understand exactly the terms of the contract you're getting into.